Hello everyone. So for this part of the training, we're going to discuss the overview of the RPCCR tool platform, and we'll go through a real quick demonstration on how to actually use the tool. So on the screen here, you can see the web mapper, and this link is provided to you in the course materials and in the handout that you will use in the how-to hands-on exercise. So the first thing you see the legend here, and you can see there are multiple layers that are listed in the legend. Only a few of them are on by default. That includes hybrid imagery, the state's boundaries, and the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture boundary. And this happens to be the boundary of the riparian tool. So there's all these other layers that you can turn on and off. There's also a toolbar up here which has a lot of features that you may use. So the standard fixed zoom in, zoom out. There's also a zoom to the extent, so that will take you back to this main view that you see here. There's also the zoom in select, and this is to zoom in if you left click, draw a rectangle on the screen, that is that zoom. And then you can also do a pan, so we can, if we select the tool, make sure it's clicked on, and then you can pan on the map. You also have a zoom to current location. You have a zoom to a specified address or coordinates, so you can use that if you know the address or coordinates of a place you're interested in. This is a preview extent, so we can, if we keep clicking this back, we'll basically go back to where we started. And then there's also a next extent tool. There is an identify feature, so this will, if you click on the map and you have the layer on, it will give you information about the layer that is visible within the map. There is a select features, and we are actually going to use this tool when we walk through the how-to demonstration. There is the clear selected features. We also have a button to download layers, and this little tree icon here, that is the riparian prioritization tool, and we are going to walk through that in just a second. And you also have something here for calculating drainage area. We're not going to cover that, but just know that it is there. And you can, this is another download information from the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture layers, and you can download some documentation of the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture assessment. So those aren't tools that we're going to go into any further. Those are just ones that I wanted to mention that they are there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the zoom tool, and we're going to zoom into an area in Pennsylvania. So I just want to zoom in a little bit before I turn on my analysis layers. So you can see on the left there are multiple different layers that we can run the analysis on. The ones I'm going to focus on and draw your attention to are the HUC layers. So these are different order watersheds. So HUC 6 is the largest of the watersheds that you see listed, and HUC 12 is the smallest. And the larger your area, the longer it will take the analysis to run. So for this example, we're actually going to use HUC 10s to run the analysis. So we want to make sure that layer is clicked on. You can see it drew, and it drew relatively quickly, and I'll draw your attention to these green lines here, and these represent the boundaries of the HUC 10 units. The next step is we need to select one of those or more to run the analysis on. So under this choose layer for feature select, we want to make sure we select HUC 10. Otherwise, when we click on the map, it's going to, currently it would select the state. So when we select HUC 10, you can see now that it is selected, it's going to select that feature. So we can select one layer at a time by simply clicking on the map, or we can left click and drag the mouse, and you can select multiple of those watersheds, and you can see it highlighted them all here. What we're going to do is we're just going to run the analysis on one of those layers at a time. The next step is to activate the tool, so we click on this tree icon here, and it's going to bring up our input specification box. You will see some numbers in here by default, and so you can choose to keep these defaults, or you can change them based on your organizational needs and priorities. The first two of these are required parameters, and these include percent canopy cover and solar gain percentile. I just want to note that the value within solar gain percentile will select areas that are less than or equal to that number. So in this example, the analysis will consider as meeting your parameters if that cell on the landscape has less than or equal to 70% canopy cover. Anything greater than that will not meet the parameters that you specified. And I'll show you how that's designated in the output. Solar gain percentile is the opposite of canopy cover. It is going to select areas greater than or equal to the number you have lit in that parameter. The next two parameters you have are elevation and percent impervious surface. And you can see these actually have a checkbox beside them. And these are actually optional parameters. So you can choose to include them or you can uncheck the box and they will not be considered. So for this example, I'm going to uncheck the elevation parameter and I'm going to keep the impervious surface parameter. The next thing we want to look at is, you see this here says restrict extent by selected features. And so what this is going to do, it's going to restrict it to just that feature we have selected. And in this case, that is what we want to do. Now all we need to do is to click on Perform Analysis. And you can see as soon as you do that, you have this information box, and it will keep you posted on the progress with this status bar while it runs the analysis. And as soon as it's done, it will automatically zoom to that area. And you can see the output here. Currently, our watershed is still selected, so I'm actually going to clear that selection so we can get a better view of the output from the riparian analysis. So you see these areas in light blue are riparian corridors, but they did not meet the criteria that you specified. The darker areas within those riparian corridors did meet the criteria. So I'm going to zoom into one of those areas so you can get a better view of that. So you can see here, these areas here in this dark area, they all met the criteria. So those are areas that you may want to look at further for your conservation actions. And as soon as the analysis is complete, the layer is automatically added to the table of contents. And it will be the last one in the list, so you can see that it is this HUC_10 layer. And one nice thing about the file naming convention, it may not look like it makes a lot of sense at first, but this is telling you that it was run on the HUC10 scale, that the 723 indicates the numerical ID of that specific HUC10 watershed, and these parameters that follow indicate the values that you entered. So the 70 here represents 70% canopy cover, 75 is the percent solar gain, and 10 is the percent impervious surface. So these will actually be in the order that you input in that parameter specification. So had we included elevation, it would actually be between the 75 and the 10. So if you're not sure, or if you forget the parameters that you specified, you can easily find that out by looking at the file name. So it's a handy feature. So you have this in the map here, and you can view it, but now you may want to consider downloading it so you can put it in GIS software on your own system. And the nice feature of this tool is that we can do that. So I mentioned to you that there was a download layers box, and it's this green circle with the yellow arrow. So all we need to do is click on that, and you can see that there are some specifications for the download that we can set. The default for layer to download is all visible layers, and if we were to do that, all the layers you can see in the map would be downloaded in the zip file. That is not what we want to do, so we want to make sure we select the specific layer we're interested in, and that will be at the bottom. That is from the analysis we just ran. And there are also a couple different file type options. You have a GeoTIFF, JPEG, a PNG, and a PDF. We want a geospatially referenced image, and we want to stick with the GeoTIFF file type. there's an option here to restrict the download to the map extent, and in this example we don't want to do that because we want the entire watershed downloaded, and this would restrict it to only the areas that are currently visible if we were to select that. So we're going to leave that unchecked and hit download. The next step is it's going to download, and in my system you can see that the downloads are here. So, and these actually go to my downloads folder. But this file here can then be inserted into your GIS software of choice, and you can perform further analysis on it and add additional data layers. So that is a brief summary of how to run the tool, what the tool is comprised of. The next step in this training is to actually go through the how-to exercise that is provided. So what you'll do is you'll download the PDF of your choice, and that there are two different levels. There's a manager level perspective and a technical user perspective, and that will walk you through step by step the process of basically doing what I showed you, and it'll have some screenshots to help you.